Hello, my name is Tony. See this guy? For those of you who don't know, this is the late Robert Aldrich, director, producer, screenwriter. For my money, he was one of the greatest mainstream movie makers ever. He died in 1983 at the age of 65. In 2012, film critic John Patterson of The Guardian wrote of him, "He was a punchy, caustic, macho and pessimistic director who depicted corruption and evil unflinchingly and pushed limits on violence throughout his career. His aggressive and pugnacious filmmaking style, often crass and crude, but never less than utterly vital and alive, warrants and will richly reward your immediate attention." Combine that with some awareness of the solid gold classic movies he made throughout his career. Here's a list of some of them: Apache, Veracruz, Kiss Me Deadly, The Big Knife, Attack, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, The Flight of the Phoenix, The Dirty Dozen, The Killing of Sister George, The Grissom Gang, Ulzana's Raid, Emperor of the North, The Mean Machine, aka The Longest Yard, and Hustle. He was a tough, confrontational, aggressive individualist who fought the studios tooth and nail to make the movies he wanted to make in the way he wanted to make them. Okay, so he lost a few battles along the way, and many turned out to be box office underachievers, but even so, creatively they tower head and shoulders above the banal morass with their rare cinematic vision, intelligence and flair. For the most part anyway. He did whack out some shit as well, but put that to one side. I'm going to focus on this particular gem, his 1970 anti-heroic, anti-war movie, Too Late the Hero. Many may not have heard of it, most likely because it tanked both financially and critically and wasn't and isn't prominently on anyone's radar to any significant degree. But no matter, pilgrims, because not only is it one of the best films Aldrich ever made, it is one of the best war movies ever made, and I'm going to tell you why. But first, let's be clear on a few points. Reasons it may not be for you. 1. You don't like war movies. 2. It's a very masculine sort of flick. I'm not being sexist here or suggesting that women or people of any gender other than heterosexual male will not enjoy it. On the contrary, perish the thought, heaven forbid, oh my giddy aunt, no. I am referring to nothing more than personal taste, and if your personal taste doesn't run to predominantly male-orientated action flicks, then this is what you've got, and might hold limited appeal in spite of how good it is. 3. It's very white. In today's hypersensitive social climate where race is now culturally weaponized, there are broadly speaking only two ethnicities in this movie: white male Westerners and male Japanese. If you don't go for fact-based ethnic representations of historical events, where, for example, the Queen of England isn't portrayed by a black female rapper or whatever, you'll find it lacking. So rather than be horribly offended by its lack of inclusivity and getting your woke self all triggered and shit, consider the option of not watching as an adult alternative. 4. And finally, it's very cynical and morally ambiguous. If war is hell and ultimately futile, bestial and inhumane, Too Late the Hero does very little to dispel this belief. It's a nasty business, all this fighting and killing, and that's just how it is depicted. The Japanese may be a ruthless enemy, but then so are the Allies. The good guys are not portrayed as being automatically heroic and virtuous. Far from it, in fact. Reasons why it may be for you. All of what I just said, only in reverse, and you like all that stuff, in which case it'll be right up your runway. It may not have set the box office alight, but that didn't stop it hawking up at the Market Hall Cinema around 1972, complete with a very attractive BBFC X certificate. So I went, I looked, and I saw. Here's the deal. It's 1942 in the Pacific. The Americans have joined in World War II because the Japanese Empire, on a particularly lazy day with little else to do, decided to bomb the living shit out of Pearl Harbor to pass the time. This resulted in America not being best pleased and declaring war on Japan and its allies, which just happened to include Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, with whom the rest of the world had been at war since 1939. Better late than never, I guess. Cliff Robertson as Lieutenant Sam Lawson, a language interpreter gold-bricking his way through the conflict, sunbathing on a beach, drinking bottled beer and avoiding combat, until, that is, his commanding officer, Captain Nolan, Henry Fonda, decides to send him on a mission. Not because he's any good, but because he can speak fluent Japanese, is the senior officer, and is the only candidate the uniform will fit, or something like that. He is naturally reluctant to get killed, but is given no choice, and is assigned to a British infantry commando unit in the New Hebrides Islands. Here's the geographical situation. British military base, bloody big stretch of barren, wide open no man's land leading onto gigantic, sweaty miles and miles of hot, steamy jungle, behind which sits the Japanese base. This is the mission brief. There's an American naval convoy due to appear on the horizon in 3 days' time. The Japanese are keeping watch. Every night at midnight they transmit a radio message on the state of play. To buy the Allies time, Lawson is to transmit a fake message declaring all is hunky-dory, then destroy the Japanese transmitter. So the British commando group just need to get across no man's land, yomp through a jungle crawling with enemy soldiers, find the Japanese base, send the message, trash the radio, and get back home in time for buttered crumpets and tea. Walk in the park. Yeah, right. The squad are a disparate bunch who don't want to be there. There is not much sense of duty or enthusiasm for the mission. Michael Caine is the cynical Cockney medic, Hearn, and he's under no illusions as to just how doomed this venture is. Denham Elliott, an expert in portraying twitchy, intense English neurotics, is the reckless commanding officer Hornsby, and no one has much faith in his leadership skills. And Lawson, not exactly chomping at the bit to see action, is increasingly amazed at how the mission deteriorates into a series of mishaps and disastrous encounters with the enemy. As the journey through the jungle continues and the squad is whittled down, mostly due to Hornsby's incompetent strategies and command decisions, the crucial radio Lawson is supposed to use to transmit the bogus message gets destroyed. Hornsby's plan B is to stroll into the Japanese camp and use their equipment to make the broadcast. This ends in failure and death, and the remainder of the squad in retreat. In their attempt to make it back to base, our less than likely lads stumble across a secret Japanese airfield. Japanese commander Major Yamaguchi, Ken Takakura, needs to ensure the squad is eliminated before they can report the airfield's existence to the unsuspecting allies. He broadcasts messages to them via speakers in the trees, advising as to the hopelessness of their situation and promising fair and just treatment if they surrender. Hearn and Lawson don't trust him, but 3 of the other team members have different ideas. They surrender and are abused and executed as a result, so it didn't quite work out the way they expected. With Lawson and Hearn on their own, Hearn suggests they stop running and double back on the enemy to cause the maximum disruption. This they do, assassinating Yamaguchi and making a break for it. In one of the most gripping and inventive climactic sequences in any war movie, Hearn and Lawson zigzag across no man's land towards the base whilst the Japanese open fire on them from the tree line. One man will make it home and survive. But which one? The general idea here was for Aldrich to replicate the success of the Dirty Dozen. Financially and critically, that objective eluded. Whilst Too Late the Hero shares certain similarities with the earlier film, a band of reluctant and untrustworthy soldiers, suicide mission, odds stacked against, it's a very different beast in tone and content. It's a leaner, faster paced and altogether more pessimistic outing. The theme of heroism in warfare is pragmatically explored and found to be a purely accidental construct. That none of the characters are organically heroic, being either plain delusional, as in Hornsby's case, or preoccupied with their own survival. The squad comprises some excellent British character actors, the likes of Ian Bannon and Ronald Fraser. Some of the grunts are borderline psychotic. When they're not killing the enemy, they are railing against or killing each other with friendly fire or by design. War is a dirty, messy business, and Too Late the Hero drives the point home with emotionally affecting style. Aldrich's direction is muscular and direct, few punches pulled. He couldn't understand why it failed to find an audience, and perhaps people found it just a little bit too anti-heroic for their tastes. There are no heroes here, only flawed human beings, trapped in situations they cannot effectively control, and with little means to adequately cope. They are ill-equipped both physically and psychologically, and as previously mentioned, the odds are very much against them. The light bulb moment when Hearn and Lawson decide to turn back towards the enemy and murder Yamaguchi to enable their escape attempt is fabulous. In war movies, westerns, crime flicks, it never ceases to amaze me that no one thinks to further their cause by killing the boss man. If you want to unleash shock and awe and breed confusion and disarray in the enemy, that's the way to do it. Kill the leader, the head honcho, the numero uno, the big cheese. It's wholly gratifying that here, that's exactly what happens. The screenplay by Aldrich's frequent collaborator Lucas Heller is taut and sharp, with a pleasingly acerbic edge. Score by Gerald Fried provides a memorable main theme that is quite pulse-pounding, especially in the excellent climactic sequence. And cinematography by Joseph Byrock is vivid, sharp and clear, giving a nice impression of environmental immersion. You almost feel like you're there. Michael Caine isn't exactly stretch playing another variation on his patented Cockney chancer persona, but he's good value as a medic with a dubious skill set and questionable bedside manner. Cliff Robertson always seemed to me to be one of the most facially inexpressive granite-jawed actors to grace the screen. One of those guys who, when he isn't saying anything, makes you think you've got things on pause. He wasn't Aldrich's choice of lead, and apparently the two didn't get on all that well, but he's an okay foil and decent contrast for Caine's character. Special mention needs to go to the execution of the climax. It's a real nail-biter as Caine and Robertson zigzag across a wide open space under heavy fire with no cover and little meaningful supporting fire from the British line. Cleverly shot with some great elevated camera work and long shots so you can't tell which character is which. The payoff at the end is worth the price of admission alone and nails down the mythology of heroism in a unique and powerful way. Anyone under any illusion about the honour and nobility of warfare is about to have that illusion shattered. It's an excellent film that builds to a great ending, and I don't think anyone could ask for more, but it wasn't good enough for the audiences and critics of the time. No accounting for taste, one supposes. I mean, I'm sat there thinking this is amazing, what a marvellous film, really well made and well acted, and most of the rest of the world is histrionically crapping its pants and sobbing into a box of Kleenex over Ali McGraw in fucking Love Story.
Where do I begin?
Piss off. Anyway, so what? For me, Too Late the Hero is a fantastic piece of war movie cinema, and I would rank it up there with Where Eagles Dare, The Dirty Dozen and The Guns of Navarone. It's adventurous, thrilling, amusingly callous, and manages to say something valid whilst being entertaining. It's never too late to see it and see what you think. Or if you have seen it, let me know what you think. Thank you for your time and attention. You may not believe it, I can't help that because it's sincerely true nonetheless, but it is appreciated. Like, don't, subscribe, comment, whatever takes your fancy. Meanwhile, here's a song called Killing Zones. There's a ringing on the telephone. It's a rush to pick up the receiver. Just took a hit to my funny bone. Makes me laugh like an overachiever. Break your pen cause you don't care to sign another covenant, but it won't get you anywhere fooling with the government. Ain't life a bitch when you're alone? Beat with a stick, hit with a stone. It's firepower wins the day in the killing zones. Isn't it rich? Send in the clones. They got no guns, they're only drones. Got all the muscle I need in the killing zone. Get a joker on the microphone in an attempt to cheer up the Titanic. Abandoned ship, you're not going home. Stiff upper lip, counteracting the panic. Look at all that angst glow. Won't be giving them no breaks. I have more fun than you can know. Triggering those snowflakes. Ain't life a bitch when you're alone? Beat with a stick, hit with a stone. It's firepower wins the day in the killing zones. Isn't it rich? Send in the clones. They got no guns, they're only drones. Got all the muscle I need in the killing zone. Every runt of every litter, mewling like a puking child. Trigger words on Instagram or Twitter, it don't take much to drive them wild. Ain't life a Bitch, when you're alone, beat with a stick, hit with a stone. It's firepower wins the day in the killing zones. Isn't it rich? Send in the clones. They got no guns, they're only drones. Got all the muscle I need in the killing zone. Alright.